You're locked in. Welcome to CosmicPotatoNetwork.com.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
I am Iron Man. That's a big twink.
Pizza Dude's got 30 seconds.
You are a toy!
It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
Why so serious?
The city is flying. We're fighting an army of robots. And I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
And welcome to World War G episode 277. I'm Troy.
I'm AJ.
How are you enjoying your new chair?
It's nice, dude. Like, when you'd said that we were going to get, new chairs for the podcast, I was just like, upgrades. Oh, yeah. It's fancy.
Well, because I, for the past couple years that we've been doing it here, I had, an office chair, and then I have this chair, and you always had that basically patio furniture you were sitting on.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And I would look at that every week, and I'd be like, man, I got to get him a new chair.
Yeah.
Because I've sat in that chair, and it's not comfortable to sit in for long periods of time.
No, your back kind of starts hurting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
So I got you a chair with actual cushions.
Feels like it's got some lumbar support in here too, right?
Yeah. So we'll see if the whole dynamic of the podcast changes now.
Probably. I'll be more positive. My outlook on life will be better. Things are looking up. 2020, it's our year, Troy.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to this week in Geek history.
Look, up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane!
Today in Geek history.
Oh, man. We just talked about it things changing.
I'm working on very little sleep at the moment, so
that's very, very true.
This episode's either going to be fairly could be boring, or it could just be
way to sell it,
or it could be strange because I don't know, I'm feeling a little punchy. Anyway, doesn't matter. Yeah, today in Geek history. So, on this day, in 1978, on July 26th, the 11th San Diego Comic-Con International opens at the El Cortez Hotel. The 11th. So it means it started in 77 or 67?
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing about Comic-Con when it first started. I know it's kind of a novel idea, but it was just about comics.
Yeah.
It was basically like buying and selling comic books and showing people your collections. And
it was like a swap meet / fancy way for comic book artists and other people to kind of get together.
And then they started bringing in special guests and celebrities, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, and turned into the behemoth monster it is today.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Not this year, though.
No.
This year it got squashed, just like everything else.
Are they still thinking about doing anything as far as
Salt Lake?
Or Salt Lake
cons in general.
Cons in general, yeah.
A lot of them been doing it online.
Okay.
Like what we did with At Home Con.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Salt Lake is actually, I think they're doing something online too. Because they're not, or they canceled it this year.
From humble beginnings, though. It's crazy to think that at one point, San Diego Comic-Con just started out in a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just a couple of people getting together.
Yeah, it's weird.
You have an idea like that, and it just snowballs and becomes I don't know, can become something great.
Now all of a sudden it was kind of the go-to thing to promote your upcoming movie or television show or whatever.
Right. They've kind of tried to keep it grounded. Same with like Salt Lake, but unfortunately it goes away from like comic books.
It does.
Last couple of times that we've gone there, I've maybe seen 3 or 4 comic book stands.
Yeah.
And everything else, I mean, there's more like corn dog stands or like the toasted almond stands than there are comic book stands at a comic convention, Comic-Con.
I know. It's weird. It's weird. That's why I always like to go down when we go there, go like Artist Alley.
Yeah.
Check out some of the independent comic books. Because they're always shoved like way in the back.
They really are. They keep getting a smaller and smaller area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like where everybody else isn't, like that's where they are.
Which is really, it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah. Con culture is weird. It's a strange thing. Okay. Let's get to This Week in Geek.
This weekend.
Geek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with the next gen of consoles coming out and making their way to the big stage, Ubisoft came out recently and announced that they, at least with the upcoming titles that they'll be releasing, they will be sticking at that $60 price tag. They're not bumping up. When kind of they pressed the CEO and tried to like ask for anything else, like I watched the interview and he kind of sidestepped it a little bit and mainly just said, yeah, for the holiday rush, you know, for the holiday games, we're going to keep it at that $60 price tag, but he didn't really have much more to say if that's where it's going to stay.
Yeah.
Can games really get... would people start protesting it if a game costs like $100? Or what's that point that people are going to start looking at it and saying like, it's not really worth it?
I would say $100.
As long as they keep it under that?
Yeah. Like
if it's like 90, 80, 90, people would still...
Even then, yeah, it's weird. People will see a game that's $80 or $90 and think, well, at least it's not $100. Once it hits $100, and you're like, I can't justify spending that.
Right. So 2 of those titles for sure around the holiday season that are coming out on like the PS5 and Xbox.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Watch Dogs. As far as like from Ubisoft is concerned, it's going to be Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Watch Dogs Legion.
Okay.
Have you watched the trailer now for Valhalla, right?
Yes.
Would that get you back invested into a Assassin's Creed game or?
Not
really?
I wasn't ever not invested in Assassin's Creed.
Okay.
I love those games. Haven't played one in a while.
But you hate stealth.
But we've talked about this before. The thing with Assassin's Creed, though, if you're good enough, you can just run through and kill everybody. Right. Like, it's not going to end your game if you aren't particularly stealthy.
Right. Plus,
the stealthiness in Assassin's Creed, I think, is actually kind of fun, personally.
Okay.
Because I don't know, it's like the same thing with Hitman. Because you have to be stealthy in Hitman, too, and I really like those games. It's stealth wrapped in a riddle. Because you have to find a way to like get into a certain place, and you have to be quiet.
Right. If there's a purpose for this stealth,
yes,
then it's not so bad.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can actually see. Well, isn't that the case with most games then that have a stealth aspect?
Well, okay, so the reason, if you don't know, where all this anti-stealth thing came from was the game The Last of Us, if you've been listening to us for a while.
Yeah.
And I commented on the fact that I hate that you don't have the option to run and gun.
Right.
I think that's what I want. I want the option.
You can, in The Last of Us, you technically still can. It makes it way more difficult because there's some big creatures and you're limited on what weapons and how many bullets you have.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't like that aspect either.
Okay.
I want to have the option to be stealthy or not stealthy.
Well, it's more of a survival horror type of game.
I know, that's why I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I'm not big on that type of game.
This is my Bill Murray moment.
Sorry. Your Taylor Swift moment.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I know the GF will listen to this later. Yeah. And same thing with Assassin's Creed. Like I said, there are points in the game, certain levels, where you have to be quiet. You have to be stealthy. You're not going to finish the level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. It's not every level.
Right. And also, I do like in Assassin's Creed where even if you do get spotted and they all come after you, you can just jump on a building, jump around, or jump in a bale of hay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you disappear.
Those convenient haystacks, you know?
Right. And this one doesn't seem like they'll be dealing with stealth too much, and Assassin's Creed is moving away from that, especially with like Origins. This seems more of like its own standalone kind of game with the Assassin's Creed name. Yeah,
I would say if you're a Viking, stealth probably isn't going to be your thing.
No.
Yeah. If you're a big hulking Viking. Like, can you imagine somebody like Thor, you know, going on a stealth mission? No.
Sneaking around, trying to be stealthy. You're like,
going around on his tiptoes with his hammer.
I was thinking like Andre the Giant kind of a deal. You know?
Yeah.
That dude trying to be stealthy.
Yeah.
Like, I see you hiding behind that tree.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Doesn't work.
But yeah, okay, I think you're right. If it's $100, then I'm probably not going to buy it. But what they'll do, they'll trick us, is they'll add on additional DLC, or they'll say, hey, if you buy a season pass for $20, so you pay $60 for the game, but then it's like $20 or $30 for the season pass, so you get all the DLCs that are coming out later on.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right.
That's
plus, like,
$200.
maybe an online multiplayer mode, plus they could tack on anything.
Yeah, in-game purchases.
Mm-hmm.
Pay to win.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is ridiculous. I hate that concept.
Where you're like, especially that was a big thing for you on Battlefront 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
That people could just pay and be as good as you, where you had to grind and put in hours to get certain weapons.
Yep.
Yeah.
It sucked.
Anyway. Thanks a lot, EA.
Speaking of Star Wars.
Yes.
There's a new Star Wars TV show rumored that is going to bring back Donald Glover's Lando. Say what you want about the Solo movie. I thought Donald Glover as Lando was pretty good.
He was. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
He was charming and swarthy and always wearing his cape, and I think he was having sex with his droid. I'm pretty sure.
It seemed like that. I was getting some, like, droid vibes.
Yeah.
Like, sex vibes.
I think those two have gotten it on.
Hey, it gets lonely in space.
It's all the same in space.
What happens in space stays in space.
That's right.
Would it just be adventures with him going around space?
Having
sex with robots?
I wish. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'd watch the hell out of that.
Yeah, I would. Lucasfilm is rumored to be looking to bring the actor back for another project. This time for standalone Lando TV show, as suggested on the podcast Kessel Run Transmissions, hosted by Corey Van Dyke and Noah Outlaw. In a new episode of the podcast, Van Dyke said, "We've heard Donald Glover is coming back as Lando in his own series." Pretty much as of right now, that's kind of all that's all they know.
Yes.
But with the recent announcement that there's going to be a new animated series called The Bad Batch, based on characters that were in this last season of Clone Wars, this probably isn't, and with the success of The Mandalorian, this probably isn't too far off.
No.
I wouldn't think, it's not like this rumor doesn't have legs or anything. Like, I could see this happening.
Would there ever be a crossover between Lando and The Mandalorian?
I think if they're smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not right away, maybe save it
right,
a couple
3
seasons.
or 4 seasons in.
Yeah, I think they don't exactly take place at the same time.
Okay, so The Mandalorian takes place, when's the time frame for that?
So Mandalorian takes place after Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Whereas Donald Glover's Lando took place even before the first Star Wars movie. Like, it took place between basically episode 3 and episode 4.
Okay.
Like, soon after episode 3 is kind of when that took place. So it's a few years down the line, but I don't know, they old him up a little bit.
Yeah. He's just like walking around with like a bottle, like got his arm around a robot, just I know how Disney and also Star Wars loves their crossovers, and they love
they do
incorporating everything and throwing in Easter eggs for the fans. So it's a possibility. Even
my mom likes The Mandalorian, which is weird.
Really?
Yeah. She's counting down the days to October till it comes back.
No way.
Yeah.
That is legit. That is awesome.
Yeah.
You're like, we actually have something to talk about.
I know.
To connect on.
But I think people have kind of lost interest in Baby Yoda at the moment because there are Baby Yoda toys available.
They're not doing well,
no, they're not selling.
No, not at all.
I would suggest buying them now, though, because once October comes around, the new season hits, people are going to snatch those up.
Mm-hmm. Because they'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, Baby Yoda. That's
I remember him. So, did you ever play Halo back in the day?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll appreciate this. Halo Infinite box art has been confirmed that Master Chief is getting a grappling hook.
It's about time.
It's also kind of neat because from the picture, from the box art, they're paying homage to the original.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost identical. It doesn't have like one of those ships crashed in the background. There's a little bit of difference, but for the most part, it's looking pretty identical, which they have talked about him using the grappling hook, but in different ways, because I almost feel like this seems too much like Modern Warfare, Advanced Warfare, Call of Duty, Advanced Warfare, just because you'd fly around using the grappling hooks, hooking onto things and being able to traverse terrain a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But I feel like if they're going to introduce a new way, they almost need to have it where you can draw in enemies with the grappling hook.
Scorpion style.
Right? Scorpion, kind of similar to Doom, some of those other games. The only problem is the graphics from 2010 look a lot better than the graphics in this new Halo trailer. It's so dang, especially the guns.
It's interesting.
Which doesn't make sense. I'll have to show you a side-by-side picture that I found, but it's kind of ridiculous. The also cool thing about this box art is if you look in Master Chief's in his visor, you can see it looks like a alien type of character. It could be one of the Banished, or it could potentially be Hyperius, which is a character that they leaked. Mega Box Toys leaked when they released all of their toy line back in July. They released that there was this new guy, which he could be the main antagonist in this upcoming game.
Right.
But I do feel like they need to step away from the Banished a little bit. They've kind of like run their course. You can only like fight them so many times, and these alien race can only be so interesting. But I think if they were actually to go a different direction and have a new big bad like Hyperius, it could be pretty interesting.
Okay.
There you have it.
It's interesting also what nerds can find just in box art.
Right? Everybody's like looking at every little single like slight detail.
Every little detail. It's like, what if you line up the trees?
So you see his in his.
Oh yeah.
Right?
It is very alien-ish. Yeah.
But if you line up the trees just right.
If you line up the trees just right, then it actually gives you a secret message.
I love when
Master
games do
Chief's
that, though,
real name.
I honestly love when games do that. They throw in just enough to get speculation and a buzz about something.
Yeah. It's also funny, like a lot of the time with these stories when I'm looking at them, I'll kind of scroll down or look around at what else is on this page.
Mm-hmm.
And I scrolled down, and here's an article from a couple days ago. The best lawnmowers, from riding mowers to lawn cutting robots.
I had $1 million idea back in the day.
Didn't even give you a list.
I always thought it'd be cool if you had a sprinkler system that was actually like a weed whacker.
It's a good idea.
Right? And they would spin and it'd cut your lawn and then it'd just drop back down. So it'd just spin around like a couple of times and then drop back down into the ground. The only problem is you wouldn't want to have any of your pets, animals anywhere near that.
Children.
Yeah. Right? So it's like they drop a couple inches. The only problem with that is getting your lawn to be exactly even.
That would be, yeah.
Right? A flat surface to work with.
So, the best overall lawnmower is the Honda HRX 217 VKA 21-inch gas self-propelled mower.
Honda does make a good mower.
Now, the best cordless self-propel... I spit on my thing.
Is it a Toro?
It is an Ego LM2102SP 21-inch cordless electric self-propelled mower. The best gas push lawnmower is the Troy-built TB160 21-inch gas push mower.
These mowers are sounding more like Star Wars characters.
I know.
All the time.
I know. That Honda one is nice.
The CX-3 R2-D2 C3PO.
The Honda, the best one, that Honda one you can buy at Home Depot for $619.
What a steal.
Yeah. These are actually really... This is a strange tangent, but these are actually really nice mowers.
If you're in the market for a mower, this episode brought to you
by Troy-built. See, that would make sense.
Yeah.
I've always wanted a riding lawnmower. Did you ever have a riding lawnmower in Amish country?
No.
Really?
No,
that's too bad.
Dude. Yeah.
You had to go out there and push it yourself?
I have used one of those before. Yeah. When the mother mower wasn't working. I didn't even have, until I was in high school, I didn't even have a mower that had the little extra bar that you could pull down and it would self-propel. Yeah, no, it was a push mower.
Here's what we need.
Yes.
The WRX WR140 Land Droid M Robotic Lawnmower.
Oh, snap. That's just like the name alone, I'm sold.
Like a Roomba. This is what it says.
Take my money.
Like a Roomba for the yard. So it's just a little droid robot out there cutting your lawn.
That just drives around.
Yeah.
What?
I want one. And it's a cool little machine, too.
Does it do, like, edging as well?
Let me see.
It slices, it dices.
The idea here is that the robot mows your lawn autonomously, on a set schedule, or when you trigger it manually from your smartphone. It's equipped with Wi-Fi and GPS, so it knows where it is within your yard at any given moment, and you can control it remotely. The WR-140 intended for lawns up to about a quarter acre.
That's a decent-sized lawnmower.
Yeah, and you define the perimeter by laying down a boundary wire that it knows not to pass. The mower isn't limited to just watching for the boundary wire, though. Thanks to a set of optical sensors, it can go around obstacles in the lawn, so it won't run into or try to mulch toys your kids have left lying around. It doesn't say if it also trims.
Huh. Does it know to avoid children?
I would imagine. Speaking of that, I ran into my own little robot at Walmart.
Yeah.
See that video I posted?
I sure did. That was creepy.
It's weird. I don't know what it does.
For security purposes?
I think it's... Okay. So... It's this big... If you haven't seen my video I posted on Facebook, it's about a 6-foot tall...
Intimidating.
Machine.
Robot.
That goes up and down the aisles, and it beeps, and it has cameras on the top, so it's like a one of those Google cars. And I was watching it, and I thought maybe it just cleans the floor or something. No, it had these lights that came out from the sides, and it looked like it was scanning things as it went by.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, so what a lot of these people will have to do is they have those scanners that they walk down the aisles with, and they kind of just swing it back and forth just to check the amount of product that's there.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what it's doing.
It's taking your job.
The robot's taking my job.
Inventory. It's taking... That'd be fantastic. They have a competition between Troy and a robot.
It's like John Henry, but for the modern age.
That would be awesome. I would love to see a competition like that. Troy's over there sweating as he's trying to count. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, beep, beep. And the robot's just seamlessly, not even breaking a sweat, just going down aisle after aisle. Oh man, this would be great. This needs to happen.
Like, oh no, he's gone to the soup aisle.
They're neck and neck. It's coming down to the soup aisle.
Soup aisle's always giving him troubles. Because there's so many little areas you gotta go to.
Until Troy just does like the unthinkable. Throws a can of soup at it. You're like, ha!
No,
that robot was no match for my kickboxing skills.
I'd probably start cheating. And just kind of like start pushing like just 2 on everything.
Yeah.
Just ordering 2 of everything.
Ha!
Ha ha!
The robot prints out something that's just like, ha ha, I can do that too. Troy's heart rate is 115 over.
Yeah.
I'm going to sleep with your mother after this.
Ha ha ha.
Oh man. Speaking of people that could probably sleep with your mother, Keanu Reeves.
No, we're not there yet.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
All right. Though we probably could. So this was actually sent to me by the GF. Nickelodeon has a new Star Trek series coming out, which is a weird sentence to say.
Yeah. And
it's going to be a cartoon. And it's called Star Trek Prodigy. Now, the basis of this is that the starship that they're all cruising around in has been stolen. It's a group, follows a bunch of quote-unquote lawless teens taking a derelict starship for a ride. Along the way, they beam up adventure, meaning, and hey, maybe even salvation.
When I think of Star Trek, I don't think of Nickelodeon.
No, although they're both owned by the same company.
Right. But I don't immediately think of
I know.
that. You know what I mean? Make that connection.
I know.
I do like that they're going the animated direction. Would this be the first animated thing that has come out of Star Trek?
Let me give you a little history lesson here.
Yes.
So, back in the 60s, 70s, there was an animated Star Trek cartoon based on the original series. So, Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock and all that. And they had the original cast come in and actually voice the characters.
Oh, wow, okay.
It didn't last that long because it wasn't that good.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, I don't believe that there has been another Star Trek cartoon. There's one now currently on called Star Trek Lower Decks, which is also animated. But it's animated more in like it looks more like a kind of a reverent Family Guy style type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this one, I think, will be more catered towards like kids and that.
Do you
sort of
think
stuff.
that they will, like where it's animated, you can do whatever you want? So do you think that they'll find some of the more obscure creatures and villains to go up against?
I would assume.
Right?
Yeah.
You can have those more zany names that adults are like, well, that just seems kind of like weird. But like kids, they'll like eat that stuff up like a bowl of cereal.
Like the Balchinians.
Yeah.
From Men in Black. Ugh. I still haven't forgiven Men in Black for that.
No.
Balchinian.
Wow.
How far you've fallen, Will Smith. Anyway, speaking of people that can sleep with your mother.
Yes. Keanu Reeves is writing a comic book. Actor, musician, film producer, and now comic book writer.
Stay in your lane, Keanu.
Right?
Jeez.
The actor, let's see, the Hollywood action man has teamed up with New York Times best-selling graphic novelist Matt King to produce a 12-issue comic book series, Berserk, B-R-Z-R-K-R.
I love that they call him the Hollywood action man.
Right? Because he doesn't do anything else.
Keanu Reeves, Hollywood action man.
After John Wick, yeah. He's a bona fide action man. So the illustration is going to be done by Alejandro Viti and distributed by Boom Studios, which is an excellent choice. It looks gritty, dark, and it's got potential. It does look like Keanu Reeves is the main character in it.
Of course.
Right? And he does kind of look John Wick-esque, but he looks aged and worn, and I'm pretty sure that's a big beard.
The comic centers on a violent demigod who has been wandering the earth searching for answers about his existence.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Kind of an interesting take on it. It really reminds me of that TV show that came out on HBO. Not Power. What is it called? I can't even think of the name of it. Dang it.
Podcast brain.
God's. What is the name of it?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Based off the book series.
See, it happened to me too. It has gods in the title. Is it
American Gods?
American Gods.
There we go.
That's what it is.
That's what it kind of reminds me of. like an American Gods vibe to it.
Okay. I mean, okay, why not?
If they release just like a 1 volume, because it's going to be a mini series, if they release like it in 1 or 2 books, I'd probably pick it up.
Yeah.
Just to check it out.
Yeah. I mean, hey, like they say, rising tide does something to boats. Raises all boats.
Yes.
Can you tell how tired I am? And so this could probably only help the comic book business. Because it is
Absolutely.
Keanu Reeves, and it'll get people talking about comic books, maybe buying.
And when's the last thing, like, I mean, Boom, I don't know, they do Power Rangers and they do a couple others, but this is going to be something big.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Can you imagine if you get a signed copy by him?
That would be cool. That would be cool. And he's the kind of person that would do it.
Oh, yeah.
I've never heard anything bad about Keanu.
Have you seen the newest trailer for Bill and Ted?
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
I'm really looking forward to this.
So now it looks
I
like
really am.
their daughters are going around and helping them find a bigger band.
Like musicians throughout history.
Right.
Yeah.
So the daughters are kind of doing what they did in the original ones, where they went around and found these musicians.
Yeah. I don't know. It just was with everything that's going on in 2020. We could use a little Bill and Ted right now. You know?
Absolutely. Did the date get pushed back at all? Because I know every other movie has been pushed back. Or isn't it going direct to...
It's both.
Okay.
It's going to be VOD and in theaters.
That is awesome.
And Ted Face the Music. Excuse me. I was trying to see when it comes out. Because it said the original release date was in August. September 1st. An on-demand release will be September 1st.
Okay.
Theaters, I'm not sure, but yeah.
I also really like the 2 girls that they've gotten to play their daughters.
Are
a
they
good cast?
I don't recognize them.
Samara, she was in that recent movie. Oh, what the heck? Ready or Not. She's done that one. The Babysitter. She was in Guns Akimbo.
Is she Guns Akimbo?
Yes. Mayhem. She was in that one. She was in 3 Billboards.
Interesting. Okay.
I really liked her in Ready or Not. She was fantastic in that movie. That was the one where they play hide and go seek, but it's a deadly game of hide and go seek.
Right.
And the other girl, Bridget, you'd probably well, I don't know. I know that Colton for sure would recognize her because she is in that TV show Atypical.
Okay.
That's kind of her bigger claim to fame.
Wait, hang on a second. In the movie Ready or Not, that wasn't Margot Robbie?
No.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
I've been thinking that was Margot Robbie this whole time.
No. Samara Weaving.
Whoa.
It could be, yeah, she could be
That's
her, like,
weird.
her sister, for sure.
Okay, well, yeah. Yeah, they do look pretty much the same.
A younger Margot Robbie?
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I thought that was Margot Robbie this whole time. Huh.
You did get around to seeing it, right?
More or less.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Essentially. What I did was I watched, there's, and I think I've mentioned it before, there's a great YouTube channel called Dead Meat.
Yes.
Where
they do kind of a body count?
Yeah, they do kill counts. And that's where I saw it.
Okay.
So, technically, I know what happens.
Yeah.
So, technically, I saw it. But no, I didn't.
It
watch
has such a, like, just a kind of funny, poignant, perfect movie, like ending.
That was a good ending.
Everybody's just popping.
It was a good ending. Okay. So, this should be interesting. So last week we debuted a new segment called Crash Course.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Where essentially we basically give crash courses on certain subjects. And we don't go in too deep into detail. It's just the basic stuff you need to know.
A crash course.
Yes. Last week we did football, which is something AJ knows a lot about and I know nothing about. So now we're flipping the tables. And this week we're doing pro wrestling, which is something I know a lot about. And
I know
AJ...
next to nothing.
Yeah.
I know a couple of the big bads when it comes to wrestling, but other than that, you know.
Yeah. So, get started. Just kind of a brief history of where professional wrestling comes from. Basically, it started in the early 19th century.
Wait. Let me get my notes.
Yeah.
I'm going to be taking notes here.
Basically, it started in the early 19th century over in the Europe area. And it kind of fell out of favor until the advent of TV came along. And then it got more popular, especially here in the States and in Mexico.
With the Nacho Libre characters.
The luchadors.
Luchadors, there you go.
Yes. It's also really big in Japan as well.
Huh.
Now, so a lot of people when they think of professional wrestling, and they think of this big, goofy, dumb kind of thing, and everybody will say, "Oh, it's fake," and that's kind of a misnomer. It's not fake. It's controlled.
Right.
Right? So, but before we get into that, though, basically, how professional wrestling came to be what it is now is back in the 40s and 50s, there were territories throughout the U.S. And this wrestling company had this territory, and this wrestling company had this territory, and this territory over here, and they had their certain wrestlers, and they never crossed paths, hardly ever.
Okay.
Well, then, what happened was, once Vince McMahon took over the WWF at the time, actually it was called WWWF at the time, from his father, he started buying up the territories and the wrestlers from there.
Like the big name
The big
guys?
names. Mhm.
Okay.
Like your Hulk Hogan's, like your Randy Savages, Andre the Giant.
So if you control those, you basically control wrestling.
Exactly. And that's pretty much what happened.
Because those are the big names that people are going to come to see.
Ric Flair, you know, these guys. And that's what he did. And so he basically had a monopoly on wrestling. Professional
Does
wrestling.
that piss off a lot of people?
Kinda.
Okay.
Yeah. So then what happened is, because for a long time, the I'm just going to call it WWE because that's what it is now. They were the dominant force in professional wrestling. Until around the 90s when World Championship Wrestling started coming up. Now, World Championship Wrestling came out of the South, came out of, it was called Jim Crockett Productions. And all of a sudden they started to get more and more popular. All of a sudden Hulk Hogan, he would jump ship from WWE to WCW. Ric Flair did the same thing. Macho Man did the same thing.
Going where the money is.
Going where the money is. Right.
Because they're basically, they can be free agents, right?
Yeah, and the other thing was, WWE really controls their wrestlers. Whereas in WCW, they had more freedom to do what they wanted.
Yeah.
So more money, more freedom to go places with your character you didn't have before. Obviously, a lot of them were going to go there. And so that is where, and you might have heard this term before, where the term the Monday Night Wars came from. Where on Monday night, you had at the same time, you had WWE with their show Raw.
Yeah.
And then you had WCW with their show Nitro.
I think I watched more Raw.
I watched more Nitro.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh,
and
violence.
so they would compete for ratings, obviously.
Yeah.
And it kind of became just like we did. Like, are you more of a WWE guy or WCW guy?
You had to pick a side. It was Star
You
Wars,
really
Star
did.
Trek.
You really did. So I have an up and down relationship with professional wrestling. I've been really invested in it. I've also not cared at all and didn't want anything to do with it. And I've just been indifferent.
Yeah.
Which is where I am now. Whatever. And where I got into it the first time was in the late 80s, early 90s. Which was called... see, wrestling has gone through several eras. So you have the early years, which was from 53 to 63. Then you had what was called... let's see. You had kind of a transition phase, which was 79 to 82. That's when Vince McMahon started buying up all the territories. Then you have what's called the Golden Era. Now, the Golden Era in WWE lasted from 82 to 93. That's where professional wrestling really took off, where Hulk Hogan became a household name. You had Ultimate Warrior. You had the Big Boss Man. You had, it was basically also called the Cartoon Era because everybody had big, colorful outfits and ridiculous names. And when people think of professional wrestling, that's what they think of, is that era.
But that was only one era out of quite a few.
It was, and it didn't last that long. And then you had the New Generation era, which lasted from 93 to 97, which is when they started to get more catered towards kids and kind of started going more in a mature direction. Then you have what's called the Attitude Era, which lasted from 97 to 2002, which most people would say that was the best time in professional wrestling history. That's when you had people like Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's when you had The Rock. Yeah. That's when you had the Monday Night Wars. That's when professional wrestling made millions and millions and millions of dollars. It became a $1 billion industry during that time.
Oh, I believe it. With all the t-shirts that kids were wearing to school?
Yeah, you couldn't escape it. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
And it sucked me back in during that time. Then after that, they went into what's called the Ruthless Aggression Era, and that was after Vince McMahon bought WCW, because WCW was going out of business. They basically lost their funding from Ted Turner and his broadcasting company, so Vince McMahon bought them. Which meant that Vince McMahon then controlled pretty much all of professional wrestling.
Where did Vince McMahon get his money from?
From his dad.
Okay.
Because his dad was very successful. Because his dad was one of the first ones to really market professional wrestling.
Yeah.
To really get it out in front, to put it on television, to create pay-per-views and stuff like that. To really
monetize it.
Yeah, monetize it. To really make the world champion and the world championship belt something that was prestigious. So yeah, you've had several eras since then. Right now, they're in what's called the new era, which started in 2016 to present, which is a strange hybrid of like all their eras.
So how does it work exactly? As far as the storylines go, and who fights each other, and then because like it makes perfect sense to me with UFC fighting. It's like, oh, you want these guys to go against each other? They have to battle so many times. Like they have to do this, and that to me makes sense. This with the wrestling, I'm not sure who's fighting who for the belt, how often they can like fight for the belt, and then also are there guys that just can't lose? It's written in their contract or something that they can't lose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hulk Hogan was one of those. Now, the backstage stuff is really interesting. That's the kind of stuff that I'm really into right now. Is like the backstage politics and that sort of thing.
Right.
So basically what happens is there is a team of, it's like a TV show. There's a team of writers, producers, directors, and they craft the storylines. And they'll have their, they'll start out like a show with some of their lesser known wrestlers.
Right.
Kind of get things going. Then during the middle of the show, they'll go to the mid-card guys, which are the guys that aren't hugely popular, but still people like them. And that's building to the main event, which is where you'll find your Hulk Hogans and your Ric Flairs and, the big name guys. So if you're talking more about the rules are basically just what creative direction they want to go into.
Okay.
So, for example, have you ever heard of the wrestler Bill Goldberg?
Yes.
Okay. He debuted in WCW, actually here in Salt Lake, and they made him, his storyline was he couldn't be beaten. He went, I think he won 170 something matches.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, yes, the matches are scripted.
It's not as big of an accomplishment if they're scripted.
Right. But here's the thing, though. If the audience doesn't automatically take to you and they don't respond to you, the writers will go in a different direction and leave you in the dust.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to perform at the highest level you can to stay on top, because not every move in the ring is scripted out. They have what's called spots, where these spots are basically moments in the match that they get to move it along.
Yeah.
But in the middle of those spots, the wrestlers pretty much just have to
do whatever.
Wing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they'll talk to each other in the ring and say, okay, I'll do this. You throw me over here. Give me clothesline, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Throw me to get me to point 2, and then we'll hit this point.
Yeah, yeah. And
is that why they're not mic'd up?
Yeah.
That, and usually they're not wearing a shirt, so it'd be kind of difficult.
It would be difficult. But if you look hard, once you know that they're talking to each other, you can see it.
Really?
Yeah. So at the beginning of the match, a lot of times they'll kind of what's called squaring up. Well, they'll kind of grab each other and kind of
jockey for position.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're talking to each other.
They do a similar thing like in wrestling, like actual wrestling. They kind of do that same exact thing.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. The other thing is the referee is there there are actual rules that you have to follow. And the referee is there to also let them know, hey guys, you have about 5 more minutes in this match, let's start to wrap it up. Mm-hmm. Or if
how does he whisper that?
He does hand signals.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. See, that's the kind of stuff that I find fascinating. A referee knows when the end of the match is, and he can count to 3. Because if the wrestler is on the mat that's being pinned and his eyes are closed and he's not looking at the ref, that means the match is over. 1, 2, 3. But if the wrestler's eye is open and he's looking at the ref, that means it's a 2 count and the match continues.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
If a guy...
That's when they kick out.
Yes, when they kick out, exactly.
Yeah.
If a guy takes kind of a scary, what's called a bump, where that's when they, land on the mat or jump around and fling themselves to the outside. The referee, sometimes you'll see him go over and grab their hand and squeeze it. And if the wrestler squeezes their hand back, that means I'm fine. I'm good. Don't worry about me. I'm not hurt.
Really?
Yeah. But if they don't squeeze it, then they might have a problem. That's when they go in and ask him, are you okay? Do you need anything?
Yeah.
And if they are hurt, you'll see the referee hold up an X with his arms like this. That means he's hurt for real. We need help out here, which I've seen several times happen.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Even like in a live event, they'll just people will come out and help them.
Yeah. Let's see what else. Oh, let's talk about some of the lingo. Like I said, like kick out, or somebody taking a bump, or they're heels. Those are the bad guys.
The heels?
The heels, yeah.
Okay.
Then they're the baby faces, or the faces. Those are the good guys.
Where's that term? What is that like?
Is
that something that you say to them? You're like, oh, look at that baby face.
Yeah, it's like, every organization has their own lingo. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the lingo that comes from professional wrestling came from carnivals. Like the term kayfabe. Have you ever heard that?
Nope.
So what kayfabe is keeping up the illusion that all this is real. Okay. They've since gone away from that, and it's not a big deal now. But back in the day, if you were a heel, when you were outside, you just out and about, you had to stay in character.
Yeah.
You had to keep being a jerk. You couldn't be nice to anybody because you were a heel. Wow. That's called keeping up kayfabe.
Okay.
Let's see, or some others. There's something that's called a botch, which was there's supposed to be a scripted move, but one of the guys screwed it up.
Botched it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is blading. Now, what blading is when if you see
a razor and cut himself.
Yeah, they'll cut themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you see a wrestler bleed, that's real blood. Like that's
most
not
of the time.
Every time.
Really?
Every time. Yes.
Are you sure about that? Like, I've seen some dudes that, have blood coming down their face
I am
all over.
100%.
Maybe back in the original... Did you ever see Peanut Butter Falcon?
No.
Where he, cut himself?
See, what they do is there's a certain place that they'll cut themselves, which is right above the eyebrow.
That'll bleed.
Yes, exactly. And the reason why it looks like it's so much is because of all that sweat and everything they have. So it'll just run and run and run. And that little area will just bleed and bleed and bleed. But it really doesn't leave that big of a scar or that much damage. That's why they cut right there.
Okay.
But yes, every time you see a wrestler bleed in the ring, that's real.
I can't imagine in early 2000s them purposely, allowing them to cut themselves.
They don't anymore.
Okay.
They did... Well, yeah, it was around the early 2000s that they stopped.
You know what I mean?
But the mid-90s during that Attitude Era...
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody was bleeding.
Yeah.
There was blood everywhere.
On the mat. Which, man, that can't be sanitary at all.
Yeah.
Or one of them's got, HIV. Right?
That was a thing.
Yeah.
There been...
AIDS swept through the wrestling, world.
Yeah. That's a real thing that happened.
Oh, I believe it.
If you... look on YouTube at some stories of this, like the Undertaker. I'm sure you heard him.
Yeah,
sure
we talked about him a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because he retired.
After what, 50-something years?
It wasn't that long.
30-something? I don't know. It was long
About 30
time.
years.
Oh, that's what. He was 50.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
He sued, I think, the wrestling business because he had a guy that was bleeding and bled on him, and he didn't know that the guy had... It wasn't HIV. I think it was hepatitis.
Okay.
And he got blood on him.
Yeah.
And so he sued the wrestler. He sued the company because that wasn't disclosed. So obviously there are some big names you've heard of, Hulk Hogan. Sure you've heard of Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Jake the Snake Roberts.
Met him.
Yeah, we met him. That's right. These were the guys that pretty much made professional wrestling what it is today.
Yeah.
Nobody really paid that much attention to wrestling until it didn't take off until about the late 80s with Hulk Hogan. He's kind of the guy that blew up that sport.
Yeah.
Completely. Let's see. Or some other...
The one other thing that I'm kind of wondering about is a lot of the times you'll see the behind the scenes or these other people like arguing with each other, and Vince McMahon gets involved, and you'll see, like, does that happen just between the match, kind of as filler?
Yeah.
The backstory? Okay.
Yeah. That's called, like, either...
You'll see, like, in their dressing room and, like, them beating each other up kind of thing. Yeah.
And that's just to progress the story along.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty much professional wrestling is just a big soap opera. It really is. With big muscly men in colorful outfits.
So how do you, like, jump in? Is there a certain point that you can just go?
Not really.
Okay.
You
know what I mean? Like, if you're a Doctor Who fan, like, certain people can say, oh, start with this doctor and then just continue on. With wrestling...
I would say with wrestling, there are key matches to watch.
Yeah.
Like Hulk Hogan defeating Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. Or...
You should come up with a list.
Yeah.
To be like, hey, these are the ones, like, we'll throw it up on our Facebook page.
Or
these are the ones you should watch.
The Ultimate Warrior defeating Hulk Hogan for the championship at WrestleMania 6. Or Undertaker versus Mankind in Hell in a Cell, where Mankind was almost killed. Legitimately almost killed.
What was the dude that actually did fall on his head and died?
Owen Hart.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a great series on YouTube called The Dark Side of the Ring, where they go behind a lot of these stories. Yeah, the Owen Hart stuff was tragic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was horrible. So that's what I would say. Like, if you're interested, hop on YouTube and look and type in, like, pro wrestling classic matches or something like that.
Yeah.
That way you can kind of see... you can see these matches. You can kind of see the progression of professional wrestling,
how it's changed,
and how it's evolved, and that sort of thing. I think that's about it.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I could have gone into, like, there's certain ways to do moves and how they punch, because sometimes the punches are real, sometimes they're not. It's a whole thing. Anyway.
Yeah, I've seen that quite a few times where they'll just step on the mat really loud
when they hit. Yeah.
To make it sound bigger than what it is.
Yeah, sound is huge in professional wrestling.
Right.
Yeah.
I have heard that the ring itself is very close to a bouncy house almost. Like, I mean, it's got a mat on the, like, okay, so it's kind of bouncy-ish, and then there's a mat on top.
Basically, the ring consists of, because people think, oh, like it's like a trampoline or something. No, it's not. So, like athletic mats for, like, tumbling and stuff.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it is.
Okay.
With a thin layer of the covering over it, and then underneath the mats is basically 2x4s. Basically wood.
Oh, wow.
That's it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So, when you land on it,
there is some give.
There is a little give, but it's not altogether pleasant.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a bouncy house.
Yeah. Anyway.
There's some misconceptions about that.
There is.
Top 3 favorite moves.
Favorite moves?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
The elbow.
The flying elbow is classic.
Right.
But I gotta say, The Sharpshooter.
By whom?
Bret Hart.
Okay.
Bret Hart did it the best. Sting did it really well. One of the ones who did the worst was The Rock. Like, he couldn't do it. There's that one. There's
What's the Sharpshooter. What does that entail? So
the Sharpshooter, the guy's down on his back, and it sounds so sexual, but you have his ankles.
Yeah.
And you kind of step in between his legs and turn him over, and basically his legs are in this type of position.
Okay.
Kind of like an L position.
Yeah.
And you bend back.
So
the guy
yeah.
he's in this curve to where the bottom of his feet are.
It's similar to like wrestling where you
Yeah.
can put somebody in a half guard, but only it'd be like for the legs, where you can pull, like, because you can even pull on their arm.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can actually submit somebody to where they would have to tap out or otherwise get their arm broken.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
So the same goes for the leg.
Yeah. But there's that one. Where's some other one of my favorites? Man. There's some really cool stuff that the luchadors do.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of the names though. Or there's a figure 4 leg lock, which Ric Flair made famous. Jake the Snake that we talked to, he was famous for coming up with the DDT.
Okay.
Which is basically putting your opponent, his head in your arm, and then you kind of drop his head down onto the mat.
Okay, here are some of the big ones that they've got.
Yeah.
And you tell me if you're a fan. Power Bomb.
Powerbomb's good.
Power Slam.
Yeah.
Brain Buster.
I can't remember what that one is.
DD. That's where you jump down and it looks like the dude's like, you jump down and basically make them land on their head.
Oh, okay. Okay.
DDT.
Mm-hmm.
Pile Driver.
Yeah.
Face Buster. Suplex. Stunner. Backbreaker.
Mm-hmm.
Boston Crab. Neck Breaker. Professional Wrestling Attack. What? Okay. Choke Slam. Ooh, that's a good one.
Choke Slam's a great move.
Moonsault. Nelson Hold.
Moonsault. I really like the moonsault. If it's done correctly, it looks really cool. Frog Splash, that's another good one.
Nelson Hold. Like you were saying, the Sharpshooter. Cutter. Pin. Doomsday Device. Leg Drop.
This sounds like finishing moves.
Right?
Yeah.
Figure 4. I don't know.
Yeah. See, and that's another thing, just really quick, and then we'll move on here, that if you're going to be a professional wrestler, you have to have a good finishing move.
Right.
Something that's, going to catch people's attention and the match is over. Like Stone Cold had the Stunner. The Rock had the Rock Bottom. Undertaker has the
Grave
Pile Driver.
Pile Driver?
What the heck is it called? Dang. Anyway.
The Grand Slam Hockabam.
Yes. The Grand Slam Hockabam. Yeah.
That's my finishing move.
Yeah, and honestly, if you think about professional wrestling too much, it's corny. I'm fully aware of that.
Yeah.
And like I said, at this point, I don't watch it week to week. I'm just more interested in like the documentaries, behind the scenes stuff, the stories about how all this stuff came to be. That's what I'm interested in. But
well, there you have it.
There you have it. Also, the chairs are real. Those are real metal chairs.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't steel, but it's not like, hitting them with aluminum foil or anything.
Ladders?
Ladders are real.
Okay.
The tables are not. The tables are basically just particle board.
Really?
Okay. Compressed sawdust that they pre-cut down the middle. So as soon as you hit it, that thing collapses.
Yeah.
Completely. Yeah.
Huh. You'd almost think that you'd want it to stop your fall a little bit, right? To kind of...
No, because if you do, you don't want to hit the table and hit the mat.
Right.
You just want to
fall through the table.
Yeah, you don't
hit
want
mat.
the table to interfere with your fall at all, or else that's going to throw you off. Because there are certain ways to fall, there are certain ways to take certain moves.
Oh, these guys are in great shape and athletes for sure.
Yeah, they're athletes, absolutely.
I imagine a lot of them did gymnastics growing up, right?
Gymnastics, professional sports, all that stuff. Yeah.
And you have to be an entertainer.
You do.
To get the crowd on your side.
You do. That's how you become somebody like The Rock, is you have to be... yeah, you have to know how to entertain. Yep.
Or rememberable.
All right. So there's that. So really quick here, let's get to our Revs and Recs.
This week, I, besides watching MASH and The Office UK, I've been checking out Palm Springs. I checked out this movie. In a nutshell, when Carefree Niles and Reckless reluctant maid of honor Sarah have a chance encounter at a Palm Springs wedding, things go awry. This, to me, without giving any spoilers away, it really reminded me of Happy Death Day meets Groundhog's Day.
Mm-hmm.
It was very reminiscent of that, where they're kind of stuck in this loop, reliving the day over and over, trying to get out of it. And it's pretty dang funny. It's pretty clever. I was pleasantly surprised. At first, going into it, I was kind of tentative. It's just I don't know if I'm going to really, enjoy this. But it was a lot better than I thought. Let me see.
Anybody of note in it?
Yeah. Let's see. I have this list up. Probably the people that you recognize the most. Andy Samberg.
Sure.
Camila Mendez, Christine Militan, and J.K. Simmons.
Oh. Okay.
J.K. Simmons, he's introduced later on, but he plays a pretty quirky character. But, yeah, it's worth checking out. It's pretty funny if you're looking for something kind of funny to watch out of... let's go with, out of 5 drinks... Sitting at about a 2.5. It's pretty decent.
Okay. All right. And then I have a recommendation. It's called The Final Dance on Netflix.
Okay.
This is basically, they crafted around Michael Jordan's last year as a Chicago Bull. But they crafted it in a way where it turns into a documentary where they pretty much go through his entire career.
Interviewing a ton of athletes.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not just athletes. I mean, they interview his mom. They interview, college roommates. Everybody.
Oh, wow. Okay. And this blew up, especially this came out when there was no sports on TV and there's nothing else to watch as far as the sporting world goes. This one blew up. Everybody was talking about each episode that was dropping.
Yeah.
I can respect that he's an excellent athlete, but as a Jazz fan,
I know.
I hate the dude.
I know.
And he pushed off Brian Russell.
Yeah. I thought so too until I saw it from other angle. Brian Russell was going down anyway.
Yeah.
He was already stumbling.
He was. And then you get an interview from Brian Russell and he thinks he's the greatest. He's the only guy that could have defended against Michael Jordan. Yeah.
No, Michael Jordan talks about Brian Russell. Yeah.
Arrogant little guy.
But here's the thing. Here's what I learned about Michael Jordan. Talking about arrogance.
Yeah.
Michael has an ego. A huge ego.
Yeah.
But if anyone deserves it, it's him.
Right.
Because
he had the game to back it up.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Right.
He could back up everything he said. And it was fascinating to watch because he would lose to a team one day and then the next day he would be so determined to beat him that he'd blow him out of the water.
Yeah. You just go off for 50 plus points.
And it was all him. It was always all him.
He did have Scottie Pippen and later on Dennis Rodman and a couple other helpers.
You feel bad for Scottie Pippen.
Do you really?
Yeah. Because he's just perpetual number 2.
Yeah.
He could never get out of Jordan's shadow.
I wouldn't really care if I had 5 rings too. Whatever.
6.
I'll be a wait, did Scottie Pippen have 6 as well?
I think Scottie Pippen has 6, yeah.
Okay. You're making millions of dollars, and you're looking better because he's better.
It's true. It's true.
Was he really that sick?
Oh, yeah.
In the playoffs?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And it was also crazy that, that rumors about his dad, being killed and other... Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when his dad did die...
Yeah, there was rumors that it was because of his, Michael's gambling issues, that it was kind of a payback or something, and...
Yeah. There are all sorts of different, speculations and rumors around that.
Yeah, but no, that was all proven false, that it was just unfortunately, a random act.
Okay.
And Michael Jordan hangs on to a grudge.
Yeah. Like nobody's business.
Like nobody's business.
Yeah.
And that's how he played so good, but he's still to this day is hanging on to grudges, particularly with Isaiah Thomas.
Really?
He hates Isaiah Thomas. And he says it.
Yeah, straight up.
Straight up. Says, I hate the guy.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, the Detroit Pistons, they were known as the bad boys of basketball.
They were dirty players.
They were.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Isaiah was one of the worst. And he and Michael sometimes would almost come to blows during games.
I believe it. And, as much as you'd like to say, whenever you compare, Michael Jordan to LeBron and some of these other players, yeah, the game has gotten a lot faster, but it's also gotten a lot safer.
Yes.
Right? You can't get away with those fouls that you could before.
No. But
it's like wrestling.
Yeah.
out there.
The main reason that Michael Jordan hates Isaiah Thomas is the Pistons shut them out one year of the playoffs.
Okay.
They came back the next year and shut out the Pistons. What happened is, in that final game, the Pistons knew they were going to lose. Mm-hmm. And so they had about 7 seconds left. The entire team got up, left.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
They left the court and went
into the
back.
locker. So
went
they
the
just
locker
won
room.
by default?
Well, they weren't going to win. The Bulls were too far ahead.
Yeah.
There was no way. And so, yeah, they left. And that was almost 30 years ago, if not 30 years ago. And since then, Michael Jordan has hated Isaiah Thomas from that point on.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Did he have any kind of things to say about Carmelo or Stockton? Or?
You can tell he respects those two.
Right.
It's funny. There was one team that the Jordan family collectively hated, and that was the Jazz.
No way, really?
Yeah, they hated them because the Bulls could not run over the Jazz like they could other teams.
Right. They
had to work for it.
Yeah.
If they beat the Jazz, they had to work for it. And a lot of that came from Karl Malone and John Stockton. And so, yeah, he hated the team, but, he respected the hell out of those two.
Right. It felt like during that time in basketball that there were two bigs per team. You had right, you had Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. You had Kobe and Shaq, John Stockton, Karl Malone,
Gary Payton and Sean Kemp.
Yeah. Kevin Garnett, and I'm trying to think of the other dude that was on there. The Twin Towers with the Spurs.
David Robinson, Tim Duncan.
Yeah.
Yep.
They all, and they stuck with their team, right?
Yeah.
which now everybody's getting traded left and right. It doesn't matter. I mean, they're all just commodities, but these guys, there was loyalty to these teams. So
yeah, and love him or hate him, it's you can't deny that the guy is probably the best to ever play the game.
Yeah.
Just watching him, just watching how he approached games, his focus,
well, and that's what's crazy, is
amazing.
because like every basketball player out there, you have to have that mentality that I'm the best player at this position. Like because they're all coming, they've all won like different like awards, and they were all the best on their team growing up, and then you get these like egos playing on the same team together, right? But you have to go in thinking that you're going to win each game. You can't come into a mindset, because the game it really is a mental game much as it is like a skill and luck.
Yeah. But yeah, it was fascinating to watch. One more kind of funny thing, and then we'll wrap it up. There was a guy that was on the Bulls for a while. His name was B.J. Armstrong. He was then traded to another team. I forgot which team. But they played that team, and B.J., he was guarding Michael, and he ended up beating him. They ended up beating the Bulls.
Yeah.
And that guy ended up getting I think he had 39 points. And everybody was talking about it. And so they were going to play him again the next day. And Michael told the rest of the Bulls, he said, he's so happy that he got 39 points. I'm going to get that in the first half of this game.
Yeah.
And he did.
Really?
He ended the game with 40, 50 some odd points. But he got 36 points in the first half.
Dang.
And they completely blew that team out of the water. It wasn't even close.
He's had an off night.
Yeah. It was amazing to watch. But
yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to watch as a Utah Jazz fan, that's for sure. Especially since they talk a lot about, those final games.
Well, that's the championship. They went back to back against each other.
Yeah.
When the Jazz swept the Lakers.
Yep.
That was great. Oh, man.
Tied the Bulls for the best record in the NBA.
Yeah, which it's crazy to me when they're getting 70 plus, win seasons. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Okay.
Out of 5 championships.
Nice. Yeah. That works well. Honestly, I'd probably give it a 4.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to watch, especially if you were a fan of basketball at that time, as I was, and I watched it all the time, and I remembered these games, and so it was cool to kind of see the behind-the-scenes stuff. Again, apparently I'm a big fan of that. But you see that, you hear, when they're in the huddles talking about game plans, you see them before games, after games, everywhere, and it's just fascinating.
Process.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Okay. Here's where you can find us. You can listen to all of our episodes at worldwarg.podbean.com. We're also on iTunes, Google Play, CosmicPotatoNetwork.com, or wherever podcasts are. You can probably find us.
iHeartRadio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facebook.com on the social media /World War G podcast. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. Just search at WWG Podcast. You can find all of our merchandise at shop.spreadshirt.com /World War G. Buy yourself a shirt or a hoodie or a hat or a mug. Whatever. You can also email us anytime.
Day or night.
At worldwgpodcast@gmail.com. You can also call or text the show at any time at 385-240-1692. And we still want your suggestions for future Crash Course segments.
Absolutely.
Call in.
Yeah.
Let us know. So, this has been World War G episode 277? Yes. That has been AJ.
That has been Troy.
Stay geeky, my friends. Wash your hands. Wear your mask. out in public and don't be a racist.